It sounds crazy, I know, an alien using a human to communicate with the rest of us. But it's true. Even more bizarre is this is happening to more than just one of us. Many people claim to channel extraterrestrials. This is possible due to a shift in the way they experience reality and ability to see and understand frequencies and vibrational forces. In this video, we will be sourcing information from 3 places. We'll use general relativity or more specific special relativity quantum mechanics from conventional physics, as well as an extraterrestrial source who calls himself Bashar from Asani, which is an extraterrestrial hybrid civilization. Lastly, we will be using Alchemical Manual for this millennial, which is information channeled from another extraterrestrial civilization who call themselves the Star People. Bashar has helped us to understand how we can create actual devices that can manifest higher power output than the input, to create energy in a clean and sustained way, using a solid-state device which has no motion inside. There is no mechanical motion, but it uses oscillations and resonance, which results in the energy being output higher than it originally received. Bashar has given us different tolerances and different materials to use, and he also did his best to explain to some degree what the principles behind those devices are, and why they have to be constructed in that specific way. He says he's allowed to give us 80% of the knowledge needed, but no more, because it's a process of discovery. He says it's a process of transformation, that we need to walk before we run, and we need to understand this 80% in order to unravel the remaining 20%. There is a direct link between the knowledge which Bashar shares and the knowledge from the Star People. Bashar talks about what he calls the space-time antenna and space-time energy. In the Alchemical Manual, they talk about space fields and time fields as well as space and time energy. These concepts are the basic building blocks of what we call potential and kinetic energy. From an extraterrestrial point of view, they're absolutely symmetric. They are equal in strength and opposite in direction. In the beginning, everything was about zero-point energy, how we can access it and amplify it to output more energy than what was put in. But later on, evidence suggested those ideas are linked with the structure of consciousness, the structure of existence if you wish. They allow us to tap into many different ideas and to understand those ideas much better, possibly even how to modulate this energy in order to use it in communications. The extraterrestrials explain principles which are universal and natural, that there is a kind of unified theory amongst them. It is very simple and can explain all the different aspects of creation. So it's not only about zero-point energy, but it's about consciousness in general. Everything it's made out of consciousness, and we're going to dive into the structure of what consciousness is, how consciousness is structured and how it's interacting with itself. In a recording with Bashar, he talks about 3 key components that are of critical importance to creating new technologies and zero-point energies. We need to become more willing to collaborate with other people and create synchronicities.
When we raise our frequency, we start to realize that everything is synchronicity. There are no accidents, everything is an orchestration. We have always experienced reality that way. We are just now revealing it to ourselves in a way that we can consciously utilize it.
It's like integration. You integrate with other people and collaborate to create constructive interference.
There are many levels and purposes to this with regard to creating the reality that we prefer overall. Collaboration and connection and community is the key. This is the same thing as what fractal geometry does. They create points and are connected with the main center of one. At the center points, they contribute all the energy to the center. They work for each other. They work together.
Collaboration, communication, and community are very similar of the principles of a fractal shape. All around us are fields and energy and vectors intersecting, creating points of potentials which are linked together. They communicate together through sympathetic resonance and contribute to what they call the major center of one. The 0 point, which is in the center of the fractal. They contribute their energy supply to the energy at the center. This is so it can increase the potential energy in order to increase the kinetic energy. The same principles are used in the devices Bashar talks about. The idea is to contribute information and knowledge, to support each other in order to accelerate the process and increase the probability of this technology being used on Earth. Bashar talks a bit about the Big Bang and how scientists accelerate particles with the speed of light and collide them together to understand the beginning and what the basic building blocks of this universe of life are. He talks about understanding how to crystallize energy fields, how to magnify them, and how to understand and create matter. It's very important for us to see how Bashar and other extraterrestrials receive the idea of Big Bang, how they compare it to infinity and consciousness and what their definition of energy is.
The idea is what they call or refer to in their ancient language as the prime radiant. This isn't meant to be absolutely literal, but it's the best analogy that can be translated into our language. Many scientists now understand that the so-called Big Bang is not necessarily the beginning of everything, it's just the beginning of our particular universe, but infinity is infinity, and there are many Big Bangs. There are many cycles that occur within infinity, many universes that scientists have come to understand as the multiverse. Imagine, if you will, that there is only one particle and nothing else, one subatomic particle. If you wish to represent this as simply a tiny subatomic particle floating in a big, empty, infinite black void, that's all right, it will do for the purposes of the illustration, even if that's not necessarily literally true. So now imagine that, because there is only this one subatomic particle, it has absolutely nothing else to relate to. So there really is no gravity, there really is no sense of mass, there's really no sense of space or time, it just exists as a point of pure existence. Thus, it is capable of doing anything and everything imaginable. In other words, it can travel at infinite speed, nothing holds it back. There are no laws of physics. So if you understand that that single particle can travel throughout that void, that big infinite void at infinite speed, then that particle can actually appear to be everywhere at once. Thus, it can actually appear to be an infinite number of particles, even though it's actually only one. That's the Big Bang. Now, the pattern in which it did that, again, as an analogy similar to the pattern of lines you see on a Fibonacci spiral pattern, the idea is that it will create that infinite speed pathway in a kind of what you would call a geometrically radiating form. Where it doesn't cross its path, it will be simply what you call, well, almost emptiness. Where it starts to cross its own path, it builds up in a more and more densification and becomes something more akin to what you recognize as energy, and then matter. So in a sense, the places where it crosses itself the most creates what you understand as the experience of dense matter. This is what we consider our universe to be made of. What scientists are now beginning to explore is the idea that the majority of our universe is made up of dark matter, also called dark energy. This energy is highly invisible. The dark matter and dark energy is where the single particle crosses its own path less. It isn't as dense. It forms the majority of the material that makes up our physical universe. It only crosses itself a very few times in a very dense way to create that small amount of matter, relatively speaking, that we can perceive in your physical reality. It's also what creates the idea of gravity. It is interconnected in a sense, like a web, and it is that web which is the pathway itself. The geometric path that creates that connectivity, the stretchability and malleability that you interpret as the idea of gravitational or electromagnetic forces. This raises the question of who triggered this movement in an infinite space. Infinite means there is no beginning. Some people are saying the God existence only has one quality, to exist. Remember, time is subject to existence. Existence is not subject to time. Time is a creation within existence. Therefore, existence itself is timeless. It has no beginning and no ending. It just is. It's just the now. Imagine there is the one that everything is. But in the state we call the one, there's no reflectivity, there's no self-awareness. It doesn't know itself. But because it does contain everything, it also contains the idea of that which it is not. Thus, then, that creates the first separation, the first difference, the first reflection. As that first reflection explodes from the one that doesn't know itself, it suddenly knows itself. The one becomes aware that it is all that is, and that is also what has caused the expansion, what caused the explosion. But the one is not subject to it. The explosion only happens from the perspective of all that is, which recognizes itself as the one which knows itself, as the one which has the reflection which sees a difference. But the one sees no difference. The one is just the one. It doesn't know itself, and so there is no Big Bang in the one. The one is just existence itself, pure and simple. The Big Bang happened, in a sense, when the one suddenly became all that is, and knew itself as all that is, and had a reflection of itself as everything that could possibly be. This recognition is what triggered it. But again, you're speaking from within a linear space-time framework. There is no time in the one and no triggering in the one. Remember, it's not this or that, it's this and that. It's not subject to beginnings and endings. There's nothing outside of it. no beginning, no ending. Those concepts don't apply to existence. They don't apply to the one, they only exist within the one.
Infinity is very hard to understand because it has no beginning. The main idea here is about oneness, that everything is homogeneous together. These intersections where the particle crosses itself and create matter are also explained by star people. They talk about networks and how the energy it's moving, how every time this particle or energy crosses itself, it creates a point of potential.
Symmetric field physics says the beginning our universe was made up of field energies arranged in harmonic octaves. The greatest of these octave energies is the realm of God, a single point and continuum also known as one spirit, or all that is, or mind, or any name people choose to honor the totality of life. From this singular mind of power comes a system so perfect, so mysterious, that none of us can fully understand it. This grand law of creation begins with a simple division of energy, a point and a sphere respectively, a contracting force and an expansive force. We live in a self-creating, self-dividing universe among a multitude of universes. No action, no life, no idea is separate from the one universal time-space point and continuum. It emanates in divine balance. All is a function of one in a symmetric expression. From this system arises the study of alchemical law. One has created a spatial sphere that continues to radiate, and a center point that continues to contract. This is the first division of the one. The second division shows the grand sphere divided into two halves, each with a compressed sphere and a center point. The continuum divides itself continually in halves with center points and radiate paths that are all interconnected. Each division is an octave, a group of resonant speeds.
Bashar explained how something very small, moving at infinite speed can be everywhere at once, creating everything because there is no resistance. Star people say that from something big, which is the one, there is nothing else, only oneness. And the only thing that can create is by the one dividing itself into smaller pieces. It creates from within itself. There is nothing outside of it. Non-existence by definition does not exist, so except existence there is nothing else. Although Bashar's view and the star people's are slightly differently, they share the idea that all things are interconnected, that all things are expressing the same idea of oneness, how everything is interconnected as a whole. What if we create different circuits, different matrices in order for this energy to interact with itself? For consciousness to interact with itself to create higher outputs of energy?
Energy is consciousness reflecting itself. Gravity is an effect of the nodal points of the crossing of different vibrational frequencies in a Fibonacci double spiral, counter-rotating within itself in multiple dimensions. So at these nodal points, or crossing points, depending upon how many times the curvature crosses itself, determines what we call gravity. Electromagnetism, light, nuclear forces, so on and so forth. They're all different expressions of the degree to which the total points represent different densities in the Fibonacci pattern. We simply need to utilize the energy that is available to everyone in the matrix of what we consider to be empty space. The idea of virtual particles entering and exiting and creating an energy source that can be tapped into with the proper frequencies. We understand that there is a lot of pollution created by the way in which you are utilizing nuclear principles. The idea is to understand electron spin. That is the direction to move in with regard to anything that we can utilize that we would consider to be nuclear energy, even though it is not actually utilizing the nucleus of an atom in a direct way. It's the electron spin that we need to look at, to tap into the nucleus, but in a way that is more beneficial, cleaner, and more efficient.
From the Alchemical Manual, they describe that everything is like a corpuscular field, and when something is moving in that corpuscular field, it has certain properties and attributes. This field, it's not moving together with the objects or with a signal, but instead, it's created in increments. It's about contraction and expansion, which creates an energy cascade. S, not moving the toroidal field itself, it's just on and off. Expanding and contracting. It has an equatorial plane where it orbits. It has a central axis and circuit loops. The star people call it the space torus. They say this is the key to understand all the forces. Bashar explains that this describes the matrix of an electron.